We just got our first bit of information about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Now, in case you guys don't know, Avengers Doomsday is starting to film sometime this month. I don't really know when, because we just started March, and it has been reported that Doomsday will begin filming in March. So, we've been getting bits and pieces of information about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars from the directors Joe and Anthony Russo. They've been, promoting the Electric State, I'm pretty sure. Slate, I'm not too sure. But they're, promoting that movie because that movie's coming out. And they've been being asked questions about Doomsday and Secret Wars. And they are answering some of those questions. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive into some of those things that they've been answering and things that they've been saying about Doomsday and Secret Wars. And if I agree with what they are saying, because there are some comments that they've been saying that have kind of been like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, statement. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into those comments right now. Alrighty, so this is the first bit of information that we have for Doomsday and Secret Wars, and that is the estimated runtime that they have given for these two movies. And for Doomsday, they said it could approximately be around 2.5 hours long, which makes sense because, Avengers Infinity War is around 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think it's like 2 and 29 or something like that. And Avengers Infinity War is probably like the best Marvel movie that they've ever made. It's probably my personal favorite movie just because it doesn't really follow the same formula as past Marvel movies where, bad guy just loses all the time. Like, the bad guy actually wins. So that was pretty cool. And, yeah. But here we have Secret Wars, and that has an estimated runtime of 3 hours. Now, this could be slightly problematic because when you try to make a movie a certain runtime, it doesn't really, like, I guess you could say, flow that naturally. Like, take movies that are like Deadpool and Wolverine or Spider Man No Way Home, movies that deal with, multiverse and stuff like that. Deadpool and Wolverine was only, I think, 2 hours and like 7 minutes or something like that. And then Spider Man No Way Home was only like 2 hours and 27 minutes. So, but it felt naturally because there was no like estimated runtime given for those movies, if you know what I'm saying. Whereas if you try to make a movie a certain runtime, it could be slightly problematic. Like for Endgame, they tried to make that movie 3 hours long because it was like 3 hours and 50 seconds long because they had a goal to make that movie 3 hours and they just barely crossed that goal. So it did feel kind of meh, in my opinion, Endgame. I wasn't really that big of a fan of it. I mean, when I first watched Avengers Endgame, I thought it was like a really great movie and all that, but over time, my thoughts on Avengers Endgame changed, and now I'm just kind of like meh on the movie. Like, I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's just not really the greatest movie, in my opinion, but like Infinity War is definitely better than Avengers Endgame in my opinion. But yeah, this is what we have for the runtimes. 2.5 hours on Doomsday makes sense. Secret Wars being 3 hours could be problematic, but if it flows naturally and it ends up being like 3 minutes or 3 minutes, 3 hours and like 10 minutes long or something like that, then, maybe it can be better. But if it's just barely over 3 hours long, like 3 hours and 2 minutes or something like that, then it could be problematic, if you know what I'm saying. But let's go ahead and dive into the other comments that the Russos had to say right now. Alrighty, so this is the other piece of news that we have gotten for Avengers Doomsday that I'm not so sure that I agree with, and that is that the Russo brothers say that Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars have to outdo Infinity War and Endgame. Now, I'm not gonna lie, even though Endgame was kind of mid, it was like, a culmination of the MCU, and it was like a really big and huge and hyped up movie, so to really try and outdo that is also again slightly problematic, and it's especially the same with Doomsday and trying to outdo Infinity War. Like, you don't really have to necessarily try and outdo the movie, like, because Infinity War is probably like the best Marvel movie, like I mentioned earlier. that they've ever made. So I don't really know if they could beat that, because that would be a pretty impossible task to beat, because, Thanos won at the end of Infinity War. So what, would they have Doctor Doom win? Because we don't even know if Doctor Doom is going to be the villain of both Doomsday and Secret Wars, because I remember hearing a while back there was a rumor that the Beyonder would be the villain of Secret Wars, and then like Kang or Doom would just be the villain of Avengers 5. So we don't know if Doom is just going to be the villain of Doomsday, or if he's going to be both the villains of Doomsday and Secret Wars, because these movies aren't even being filmed back to back, which is like another problem. My chair keeps squeaking because it's up against the desk, but that's like another problem that they have with this movie, is that they're not being filmed back to back, because Doomsday, like I said, is starting to film this month. I don't know when, maybe sometime towards the end of the month, or maybe in the middle of the month. We don't really know the exact time, but they are starting to build the sets for Doomsday to obviously begin filming by sometime this month. But Secret Wars is not being filmed at the same time as Doomsday like it was for Endgame and Infinity War. Those were both filmed at the exact same time, but that is not going to be the case with Doomsday Secret Wars, and that is slightly problematic in my opinion, because if they want to release these movies a year apart, because, Doomsday is coming out May 2nd, or no, May 1st, and then you got Secret Wars, I believe, May 3rd, I'm pretty sure, or no, it's May 7th, I think. I'm pretty sure. Let's take a look quickly. Alright, yeah. So you can see right here, Secret Wars is set to come out May 7th of 2027. So the fact that they're trying to release these a year apart and aren't even filming them back to back is slightly problematic, because we did hear a rumor that Secret Wars was going to begin filming like summer 2026 is when Secret Wars will begin filming. So it kind of makes it not really seem like it is going to be a part 1 and part 2, kind of like what Endgame and Infinity War were, because, Infinity War was part 1, Endgame was part 2, so it doesn't really seem like Doomsday and Secret Wars will be part 1 and part 2. It seems like they might kind of just be separate movies, but they're still being released a year apart from each other, so that's kind of problematic, and maybe the Beyonder will still be the villain of Secret Wars, but they haven't really introduced him into the MCU either. But not really every Avengers movie has to be like this big bad culmination team up movie, you know what I'm saying? It's more so going to be like Age of Ultron, where it's just kind of like a one and done situation where, there wasn't really any build up to Ultron in the MCU or anything like that. Maybe there was, I don't really remember, but yeah, like the first Avengers movie, obviously there was set up for that and all that, but the second Avengers movie was kind of just like a one and done situation with Ultron. So that's kind of what Doomsday is also going to be. It's going to be kind of like Age of Ultron, where it's just or Doom is introduced, and then he's gone by the next movie, and then Secret Wars will have, like I said, Beyonder or something else. Maybe they might bring Kang back. I'm not too sure, but actually there was a rumor that Doctor Doom would be the one to kill Kang in the MCU. So who knows what's going to happen, really. But like I mentioned with this comment, you don't really have to try to outdo Infinity War and Endgame, because those were such big, huge movies that I'm not really too sure. Maybe Secret Wars can outdo those two movies, but with Doomsday, you don't really have to try to outdo Endgame or Infinity War, if you know what I'm saying. But that is going to wrap it up for this short little video, so let's go ahead and get to the outro. So that is going to wrap it up for this video. You guys can let me know if you agree with what I was saying of, you don't really have to try to outdo Infinity War and Endgame. You can just, make a decent, solid, great Avengers movie, and then that can just be it. You don't really have to try to outdo what were such big movies like that. But yeah, and also if you agree with what I was saying about the runtime, where if you try to make a movie a certain time, then that can be slightly problematic. Just make the movie whatever time you think fits best for the movie. If Doomsday only turns out to be maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes, or if Secret Wars only turns out to be 2 hours and 40 some minutes, then that's fine. You don't really have to try to make it over 3 hours or make Doomsday 2.5 hours. But, if it flows naturally and ends up being 3 hours, then it's cool or whatever. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up for this video. We are only 20 subscribers away from 600. We are at 580 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, that's really all I got for this video. I'm not sure if I'll still talk about the set, or not the set leaks, the concept art that we got, because we did get some concept art leaked for Doomsday. We don't really know if it was intentional or if it was by accident, because the person who leaked the concept art has now like deleted their like page or something that they had the concept art on. So it could have been by accident or it could have been intentional. Who knows? No one has asked the Russo brothers about it yet, so I guess we'll find out eventually. And yeah, guys, can also let me know if you agree that Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars should be filmed back to back or not. Because if they are part one and part two, then they should be filmed back to back. But if they're not going to be part one and part two, then I guess it doesn't really matter. But we'll just have to wait and see. And also, let me know what you guys thought of the first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again. I recently watched them yesterday as soon as they came out, and man, what a crazy way to start the show. I'm not going to get into it specifically, but yeah, crazy way to start the show. I finished seasons 1 and 2 of Daredevil, and I was going to watch season 3, but apparently you have to watch The Defenders for season 3 because, like, Daredevil season 3 picks up right where The Defenders left off. So I'm starting The Defenders right now. That's only 8 episodes, and I finished the first episode of The Defenders, so I got like 7 more episodes of that. And then I'll go into season 3 of Daredevil, and then we'll be good from there. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.